Action Comics number 11, written by Grant Morrison, art by Rags Morales, Rick Bryant, and Brad Walker. Last issue had Superman as Clark Kent jump in to save somebody who I think was like suicide bombing themselves. Somehow, as we find out later, that guy survived, but Clark Kent, his secret identity, did not. So this issue picks up with a excavation-based villain, as far as I can tell, named Metalek, who is just rampaging through the city. Superman just jumps in, rips out like the central processing core, crushes it, and yeah, the day is saved. But because he's excavation-based, he's destroyed many houses nearby, and all the people are like, Superman, you may be able to leave, but we're all homeless now. What do we do? And he's like, well, citizens, if we all just chip in, we can build an even better housing district than before. And everyone chips in for, as far as I can tell, is like 15 seconds, to which then Superman has built them all a significantly better home. And they're like, oh, well, what's the value on the houses now? And he's like, I don't know. I'm going to leave now. Bye. And so he just takes off, and he says there's smoke nearby. So we're dealing with now a fire. And as it turns out, as we see, a firefighter's getting some people out of a building. These people want their cat, whose name's Smelly, who's still inside the house. I can't even tell if they ever got Smelly out. Genuinely doesn't look like it. But regardless, we see this guy just leaping over fires with two people on each shoulder. And as it turns out, this guy's name is Johnny Clark. This is Superman's new secret identity, because maybe he was a little bit gung-ho to get rid of his old secret identity. But anyway, he's a firefighter, and everyone at work is like, hey, you want to come down to the bar? And he's like, no, I'm a loner. I don't have friends. Goodbye. And he just leaves. He goes to the hospital, and he goes to talk to the guy who he saved from the suicide bombing, who, mind you, is apparently a longtime family friend of Clark Kent's, and yet he does not recognize Johnny Clark as Clark Kent. But he's like, oh, you should have saved that boy instead of me. He was something real special. And then we just stop dealing with that. And then Superman meets up with Batman. Now, there is one thing I want to point out here, is that in the earlier scenes here, Superman is wearing his t-shirt and jeans look. But then in this shot, when he's talking to Batman, he's now wearing the armor, like the actual Superman suit. So I don't know if like that was supposed to be a long time ago in the first scene, or if it's supposed to be now. Whatever. Point being, he's talking to Batman. He's like, hey, I don't know if you know. And Batman's like, I know everything about your secret identity and all that stuff. And he's like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I just felt a bit too rash. And he's like, yeah, no, you gave up all your friends and family like in an instant. Maybe you shouldn't have let Clark Kent die. And he's like, right. But here's the thing. I don't really feel like Clark Kent serves a purpose anymore, because like, I don't live in an apartment anymore. I live up in a space station with like 200 miniaturized cities in it. And Batman's like, okay, seriously? Like, where is that? And he's like, it's right over there. And Batman's like, how do you get up to that thing? He's like, I kind of just jump/fly. You would have to build a spaceship, though. And he's like, I'll work on it. So then him and Superman bust into crime fighting or whatever. We don't get to see that, but, you know, they're teaming up. So then we cut over to a little girl who's trying to name her hamsters some cute little pair name. And she's really torn between the names Scooby and Shaggy, Baskin and Robbins, and Hitler and Satan. She's leaning towards Hitler and Satan, which is strange to me, but regardless, she's apparently the niece of Lois Lane. And this girl is talking a lot of, like, deep things. She's like, man, what if they had every name all at once? What would that name sound like backwards? What about this? What about that? And Lois is like, okay, little Susie, that's weird. Did you draw these crazy, intricate geometric drawings? And he's like, no, I didn't draw them. The spaceman in my dream showed me how to draw them. And he's like, okay, Susie, movie's in half an hour, let's go. And then we zoom in on Susie's eyes, and she has stars in them. Okay. So then we see Superman up in his ship, and he's talking to Brainiac, the onboard AI, and basically he's like, hey, can you tell me what's up with Earth? Like, why it's important? Like, why are we on this doom list thing? Also, what are the other things on the doom list? Why are they doomed? And he basically just goes through and he's like, all right, there's this thing called the multitude. It's showing up. Nobody has ever managed to beat it before. Nobody's ever survived when it shows up. So it is the end of all worlds. And he's like, all right, did it destroy Krypton? And he's like, no, Krypton was a different thing. But the multitude was coming for Krypton. But your dad, Jor-El, He repelled it before it ever even arrived by doing what many people said was impossible. And Superman's like, impossible, huh? So then last issue, there was this dude who was hitchhiking to Metropolis, and he finally shows up here. And he tracks down Lois and Susie, who are coming out of the movie theater. And Lois has this whole thing. She's like, wait a minute, you're the guy, the ghost of the, what is it? I don't even know. The ghost of something or another. Blake Farm ghost. That was it. I can feel that it was you. I don't remember this. I have no idea what they're talking about, but regardless, it's there. But anyway, the dude actually came from Susie, because apparently Susie is a star child who came from hundreds of thousands of years in the future, and he's just here to basically, like, pick her up. Meanwhile, Johnny Clark is in a fire engine responding to a fire when they happen to pass by this whole scene, and the fire truck transforms into another Metalec, which then the dude, the space guy, he immediately just shows up, tears the fire truck in half, but it does still manage to hit Lois, who is pushing Susie out of the way. And he's like, see, I'm super strong. I'm here to protect you. We are mutants. New mutant from the future. I said all this before. So anyway, he starts having this weird pink thing about him as Superman changes into a Superman thing. And he's like, look, here's the deal. I'm like super telepathic. You may be able to beat me up physically, but your mind is like way open. So I'm just going to use that to basically knock you out. And he causes Superman to collapse on the ground, and all these other mind-controlled civilians start attacking him. And then this dude just grabs Susie and goes to fly away. And he's saying it because, the multitude's coming or whatever. So, that's the thing. Okay. Sure. It's so hard to break down how I feel about any sort of Grant Morrison thing, because it's just so much to take in at any given time. So, all right, Johnny Clark. I like the concept because, Superman being a fireman. It's an apt comparison of that's basically what he's doing. I like his little talk with Batman. That's fine. I think weird futuristic mutant guy, strange. I think Lois having this niece Susie be from this hundreds of thousands of years, strange. I'm not saying bad for either of those, but it's definitely not something that's been fully fleshed out yet, and I'm still trying to figure it out. So overall, collectively, all of it, I'm going to go ahead and say 7. Part of that is higher because of I like the fireman angle and stuff like that, and him dealing with the fact that he did let Clark Kent die. I enjoy those aspects. But then the lower parts that cancel it out are this weird stuff with Susie and the mutant and all this stuff. I don't even know if he has a name. He may have said it. I genuinely could not care less. Metropolis, hear me, future child. There you are. I don't know. He doesn't have a name. We'll get to it. Regardless, it's a 7. We'll see where it goes from there.